going to go through 4 of those things.
Yeah, it's simple. I know it's better be. Hi,
All
everyone.
right. Hey guys, Trish and April, we are back for another Hot Topic Tuesday, and we are wrapping up our month of talking all about the thyroid. So next month we are going to get into detoxification. So something to look forward to. We will talk all about detoxifying in every aspect of functional health and lots of different topics of that. But we wanted to wrap up in talking a little bit more about Hashimoto's. We've spent a lot of time talking about mostly hypothyroidism. I think in one of our Tuesdays, we said we don't see too much hyperthyroid, a lot of hypothyroidism, maybe not as much Hashimoto's, but I think that tends to be that not everybody is getting the TPO antibody test for it sometimes. So, some hypothyroidism may, be masked by Hashimoto's.
100%, 100%. And I just want to add, I have a client who went in for routine blood work and ran CBC, CMP, all that, and she needed to get her thyroid panel done. Well, she goes back yesterday to get it ran, and the only marker that was ran was her TSH. It
Yeah,
made
so
me mad.
common.
It
But
made me mad.
she specifically asked for a full thyroid panel, though.
The doctor has to do a full thyroid, but here's the thing. So it was only TSH, but she sent me a screenshot and it shows her history of the last few years, and it has progressively continued to decline every single year. And
Yeah.
she has a lot of the symptoms: weight loss resistance, low energy, whatever, gut dysbiosis, like a lot of things associated, like all of the keystone, symptoms of hypothyroidism, and I'm like, this is, because I mean, you never just look at just a single marker, like ever. Anyway, it annoyed me, but she basically had messaged back in to say, hey, I kind of got all the symptoms, like, do you at least want to run T4,
Yeah.
like
Something else, maybe? Yeah.
thing?
The first time I had my TPO antibody tested was last year. The hormone doctor I see is the only person to ever have run that. So it's probably not very common.
I started to say, I actually, when she sent me the results, I looked on on my live platform, and I can do the whole thyroid panel, including the antibodies, everything, for $135.
Oh, yeah, they're not bad at all. Yeah, I mean, really inexpensive. So, yeah, and your doctor's going to probably charge you anyways to do all of the extra stuff. I've just learned recently too that full iron panels aren't even routine anymore. They're extra. So that's crazy. But
And I
anyway,
think, and unfortunately, I think a lot of that has to do with insurance, health insurance.
yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
so Hashimoto's, so really quick, Hashimoto's is very, very similar to hypothyroidism. A lot of the same symptoms. So you're going to hear a little bit of redundancy in when we've talked about that. But being that it's an autoimmune condition, and basically what autoimmunity means is that your body's immune system recognizes tissues as foreign and it attacks it. So in the case of Hashimoto's, that's going to your thyroid. So your body's recognizing the thyroid as, foreign and it wants to attack it. And, somebody has RA, that's another one. It's joints, so it's whatever kind of body system it's recognizing as not being, like welcome there and attacking it. That's pretty much autoimmunity. And fun fact for women, it obviously happens a lot more in women than men. In the case of Hashimoto's, it's a 10-to-1 ratio of women having more susceptibility than men. And I feel like, and you can correct me if you know this better, just autoimmunity in general, is it like, am I making this up, like 85% or something? Is that it's high. It's pretty high. I don't know the exact number. I could have totally made that up, but I know that is generally a lot higher in women. And I've heard kind of a dumbed down reason why that I thought was kind of interesting. Women in general have a stronger immune system. And this is proven that if you've ever been around anyone with a man cold, like we know that that is a proven fact. But what happens is we tend to get more overactive immunity going on. So that's what leads us to have more autoimmune conditions. But
Agree. And and I think that women in general tend to be more predisposed to developing hypothyroidism, and I think a lot of it is I hear it all the time from clients that they're like, oh, my husband changed one habit and he lost like 20 pounds. And I'm like, well, you think about it, I mean, it's not very, very uncommon. It's not common for men don't spend most of their lives dieting like women do. Basically, just the chronic yo-yo dieting, men don't spend, all that time. Plus, their metabolisms are higher, in general, and this is a generalization. They have more muscle mass, they burn more calories, they can sustain more, on all kinds of levels, so they tend to, women and females in general tend to be diagnosed with hypothyroidism, more than males. So, but anyway, back to the story, back to the show.
back to the story. So, so again, like very, very similar to just hypothyroidism as far as symptoms go, fatigue, weight gain, inflammation, just many of those same things. Fat loss resistance, that's probably one of the first things that people notice about it. Constipation, depression, all of those type of things. Dry skin, nerve deafness. I haven't heard of that one too much. Oh, brain fog, all those very similar symptoms, are the same with that. But, one of the a couple reasons I'll go through really quick why it's tougher to lose weight when you have hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's is for one, you're going to have a slowed metabolism. So, take your kind of a BMR, and that's going to automatically be reduced just because your thyroid isn't functioning as well. So metabolism does truly slow down in those instances. So that's definitely going to be, one factor that's going to affect fat loss for sure. Hormonal imbalances, so Hashimoto's will definitely affect obviously the thyroid hormone. Estrogen is another one that it tends to affect, and insulin. So, how that kind of transfers to what we're feeling is it's going to be tougher to, have these healthy habits, that require energy and require some of these things, to kind of, get our body to lose weight. So, that's going to affect appetite regulation, metabolism, how we store fat, all of those things. So another one is fatigue and low energy levels. So, metabolism slowed down. We're already feeling tired. So exercising, getting out and taking walks. Energy is just going to be low. It's going to be tough to do the things that we need to do to get our body into good body composition. So that's going to be another way that, having a sluggish thyroid, Hashimoto's hypothyroidism affects us. Fluid retention. So inflammation will be higher, so we are more likely to retain fluid from the inflammation that is kind of just causing by that sluggish thyroid there. And then insulin resistance. Not all people, but some people may, have some insulin resistance with just, again, metabolism kind of being affected, estrogen being affected, hormones being affected, and our body's just not using insulin as well. And we're low energy. And, it's harder to stay on the exercise, walking program, probably tougher to eat a well-balanced diet with healthy foods because when we're energy depleted, we may be seeking out more energy rich fats and carbs and those type of foods. So it kind of all just spirals and has a little negative feedback loop on everything else.
I was going to say it kind of turns into a vicious cycle. Like what you were saying, all of those, it's almost like we're, trying to walk on a steep uphill, steep uphill or steep incline, and we're just tired and we don't have the energy. But that's more of a reason why nutrition plays a very, very significant role or can make a positive difference because it's one of those things. If you're, an analogy, I like using analogies. If the motor on your car is not working efficiently, you probably don't want to invest in the crappiest gas to put in your car. You might want to invest in a little bit of good gas, meaning, if you're diagnosed with, Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder. And like what Trish said, basically our immune system is attacking itself, is attacking, it's supposed to protect us and protect us from foreign invaders and substances and so forth. But it's actually, it sees the thyroid as the invader and it's kind of attacking it, so we kind of got that against us already. But in situation like that, nutrition's so important because inflammation is a big driving factor for that negative feedback loop. If you have a recent diagnosis of Hashimoto's, the very first thing nutrition wise that I would suggest is following the autoimmune protocol for at least 30 days. Autoimmune protocol, for anybody that doesn't know, you are avoiding a lot of the big hitter inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, eggs, grains, sugar, alcohol. Am I missing anything? Nuts are one.
Nuts, seeds, corn
Uh,
products.
corn, legumes. So you're avoiding a lot of the big hitter inflammatory things, and also foods that would typically cause an immune response. So following an autoimmune protocol for at least 30 days just to kind of clear the inflammation and keep the inflammation at bay, is number one. That would be the first and foremost that I would suggest to do that. And then continuation of an anti-inflammatory diet of, just obviously like what Trish was saying, energy is going to be lower. You're probably going to want to eat the sugar and the carbs and, the bad stuff, but that's going to be inflammatory to your body. So in turn, it's almost like, sprinkling gas on the fire. You have a smoldering fire and then you're sprinkling gas, and then it's just going to keep that negative feedback loop going. Balanced micronutrients are super important. So making sure that you're getting adequate amount of protein, complex carbohydrates, fiber is always important, just to kind of help, manage hunger, to be satiated with your meals. And, if you're eating a meal that, there's no base of protein in the meal, and say like, for example, it's just carbs and fats, you're going to be hungry. You're going to be hungry within an hour after that. You're not going to feel as satiated. And not just from that, but just, if you're dealing with issues with insulin resistance, you want to have those meals balanced. Gluten-free diet is super important with Hashimoto's. I've always said, and I've always told clients before, that if I found out they were Hashimoto's and I knew that they were eating gluten, my first response is, I was like, you do realize that Hashimoto and gluten specifically are not friends. Like, they are not friends, So you're trying to make them friends, but they don't like each other, Gluten can trigger inflammation response, and gluten specifically can exacerbate autoimmune, symptoms and autoimmune issues in general. So limit sugar, processed foods. Obviously, those are big contributors to inflammation as a whole. And a little fun fact is, you want to monitor your iodine intake. Now, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think was it 2 weeks ago or was it last week? I don't know.
Last week, yeah, where
Yeah,
you
we've
want
been
to
talking about,
have enough, but not too much.
we've been talking about thyroid too long. But anyway, so we talked about the importance of how nutrient dependent the thyroid is in general, and talked about the importance of some of the main nutrients like selenium, zinc, iodine, those things. But with Hashimoto's, you need iodine, but you want to ensure that you're not getting an excess, because excess iodine can actually be harmful for someone with Hashimoto's. The excess, it can be problematic because, basically it's going to trigger the autoimmune response. So it triggers the autoimmune response, within the body, and then, can kind of put the body on the more of a high alert. And, the autoimmune in general and autoimmune disorder is, it's kind of like what Trish said, it's basically you have like a drama queen immune system that overreacts about everything. And it's like, oh my God, why? And I'm like, just calm down, you could just calm down. One thing that I would suggest is if you do have a recent diagnosis of Hashimoto's, in addition to following the autoimmune protocol for 30 days, I would suggest, I think it could actually be beneficial to do food sensitivity testing, because foods, if you have foods that you're sensitive to, which a lot of times sensitive foods are directly related to overall gut permeability. I couldn't have an episode without talking about the gut. Anyway, but a lot of food sensitivities are tied into gut permeability. But a lot of times, if we are eating, food sensitivities can be something as simple as broccoli, or chicken. Like every food sensitivity test I've ever done had chicken on it. It just makes me mad because chicken's so easy. And anytime I go on a rotisserie chicken kick, I'll see the scale and overall inflammation just slowly creep up, and then I'm like, come on, April, you know what you're doing. But anyway, but having a in-depth food sensitivity test to be able to identify the foods that are causing an inflammatory response, to the immune system and within the body. And that way you can avoid those foods for, typically with testing like that, if you have a moderate sensitivity, you would only just avoid it for 90 days. And then a high sensitivity, you would avoid it for 180 days. But taking those foods out allows you to bring overall inflammation down, and then you can kind of rotate them back in. But with the food sensitivity, I will say that is the important reason why it is always suggested. I know we've all heard it. You need to rotate your foods. That is the importance of rotating your food and not eating the same thing over and over and over again, because we do develop sensitivities over time. And that's pretty much it, is, just being mindful of, just inflammation as a whole, because you're already, like I said, you're already working on, or you're already dealing with an uphill battle, of, you're kind of trying to go uphill and working against all these things, the low energy, your immune system kind of trying to attack itself. So not eating an anti-inflammatory diet is basically just going to exacerbate and contribute to all those symptoms. But anyway, and I think a lot of people think that, following an anti-inflammatory diet is like a death sentence, but it's really not that bad. It's not, the reality is, does it mean that we, don't have options at McDonald's? You probably got minimal, but I mean, who needs to be eating at McDonald's anyway? That
Yeah.
stuff is like, it's like,
I mean, because you can really eat like unlimited fruits, vegetables. There's also another protocol that I came across, when I was kind of doing the functional studies, the Walls protocol. Have you heard? Yeah, that's a good one too. It's AIP, but you get nuts and seeds.
yeah.
So it basically, and then that could be a step up approach too. Like maybe if you want to do AIP pretty, strict for 2 weeks and then add the nuts and seeds, that would be a safe thing probably to add in first. But it isn't terrible at all. I mean, it is a little more restrictive, so you don't want to do it forever and do want to experiment with like adding back foods for flexibility and to expand your micronutrients. But
Agree. And I will say that my personal experience, I think with any type of elimination diet or a trial like that, rather than getting overwhelmed by thinking about all the things that you can't eat, I think it's super helpful just to look at the long list of all the things that you can and get creative with that. Look at what you can do or can eat, and, and work with that. So
and eat them if you're hungry because you shouldn't. It's not
it's not
calorie.
restrictive. Exactly. 100%. 100%. And that's the important thing. Because I mean, you're already going to be dealing with low energy. Last thing you need to do is contribute to that. So
Yeah, with under eating for sure.
that being said, y'all have a fantastic week, and we will kick off next month talking about all things detoxification. Bye, everybody.